Hi, I'm Colin. I'm the co-founder of Clerk, and these are my essentials for getting code to market. So the physical item I swear by is really just my MacBook. Like, I don't need a lot of things, just the MacBook, and it gets me through. I think the key apps I obsess over are just Slack and Tuple. Slack, keep track of what's going on, and then Tuple is just fantastic for like talking to other people on our team. So at Clerk, we use Tuple really for real-time communication. The company's remote, but we are sort of not async in that we do love like talking in real time and hashing things out in real time. And we've found pretty collectively that like Tuple is just a easier way to do things. And you can just kind of click in the top right, find your coworker who's online and call them. And something about the ergonomics of it, like people aren't stressed about getting a Tuple call or refusing a Tuple call. They just do it and then they chat live, and it's way lower friction than setting up a Google Hangout or something like that. It's really good screen sharing capabilities. So is there any SaaS that I particularly love? I have always been at Clerk like the more morphable one. And so if the team loves a tool, I'll switch to that tool. And it's happened a lot. I think like, you know, the shift to linear I remember was a big one, and we use Notion, and like I live and breathe these tools, but occasionally like someone will lead a charge and we'll switch a tool. And I think it's really important to have a culture where people feel empowered to like change things. And so I try never to like get too stuck on any one tool. Honestly, like my favorite gadget is an air fryer. It's just made cooking a lot easier for me. I like never turn on my oven anymore, and I like cooking. I hate like eating out every meal, and so having something simple that I could toss in the air fryer is great. Yeah, essentially iTools, definitely. I'm in ChatGPT probably every day. I'm in Cursor every day. I don't branch out too much from those, but I'm loving kind of AI disappearing in all of the other tools I'm using. It's just like recommendations and pre-typing my thoughts. Even the Apple like iPhone message summaries, I'm just loving. And so arguably I use those a lot. But in terms of code to market, like definitely Cursor has totally changed my workflow, and ChatGPT too for more like research side of things. One thing I hate from working with my brother is just the fact that I even have to think about that my mom is going to kill you for asking me this question. it's bad. Man, what's hard? You know, it's like I've known him for 30 years, so I'm used to this, but like he's not the most reliable phone answerer. And I think like sometimes it really feels like I need that. And but he's like still like teenage Braden. If I text him, I have to know that it might take him an hour to respond. A good thing about working with Braden is really just the trust is so high. Early on, it was actually less the trust. It was more just like, oh, we could fight each other endlessly, and like at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be fine. As the company's grown a lot and we've kind of taken separate parts of the business that we oversee, it's really nice to just not feel remotely like I need to check in. So just really high trust. It's great. My toxic trait at work is, so like I'm personally not a good manager. And we've tried to find ways to work around that at Clerk, which is mostly just surrounding myself with people who are good managers. But I have a very high like expectation that things will get done and people will work hard, and like they will just come with important things and otherwise not need any like oversight. And so like one-on-ones, like I hate doing one-on-ones. And yeah, I think like in general, my expectation is that like we could say, okay, we need to do this thing, and then however long it takes, whether it's like a week or months, if it needs to be months, like it gets done. And I don't know, I really struggle with people who like management heavy relative to me processes, but I recognize that that's like not realistic. So we've balanced it out at Clerk, but it's one of the things that like personally I've needed to reconcile that like I'm bad at this. Most people aren't like me, and so we need to make sure that the organization is structured to succeed despite me being bad at this. Marketing sales tools that I have to use that I hate. I'll be honest, like I don't love tweeting. I absolutely need to tweet. It has become a big part of the job, and I think I understand why, but what people don't recognize is I'll spend an hour crafting those 280 characters. It's really hard. I think the discourse I love on Twitter is when it truly becomes like a debate and I get to go a little longer form and just like explain things and how I see them. But the pure play marketing, like what's the tweet that's gonna go viral and get this in front of more eyeballs, that stuff's like hard for me. I don't know, part of me wishes like it wasn't as essential as it is, and you could just kind of build the product and they will come. I think that's every like software engineers or dev tools producers dream, build it and they will come. But in practice you got to do the pounding the pavement to get it in front of people. For kind of the 0 to 1 of Clerk, what worked versus what didn't, I think the thing that sticks out that did work first was Twitter, and just learning what conversations are good to engage in, learning just the strategies of like, when should I mention another brand, when should I post from corporate, when should I post from personal. It took me a couple months to like get that right, and when I did, it certainly helped a lot. And I think that was, I would say, the first channel that we really got going. And it wasn't like a channel of, oh, we could pour money on this and like money in equals ROI out. It was just like a great way to get our first set of people who loved the product. And ultimately, I think that's how we found maybe the true first repeatable channel, which was YouTube, where I think I'd have to confirm that Theo first discovered us on Twitter, but he was the first one to really mention us in a YouTube video that we saw a spike from, and we worked to replicate that with lots of YouTube creators over time. In terms of things that didn't work, there was like a whole year of things that didn't work. I mean, even just like laziness and non-discipline around Twitter, right? Like the throwing things into the wild. And there were points in time where you didn't have a strong enough cadence, and without the cadence, like you just have no shot. The going to events and not having the biggest booth every time was a failure for us. And one time we were just like, you know what, we're gonna spend way too much money by most rational people's expectations. This was Reactathon. I think it was like $70,000 for the biggest booth. And if you looked at how much was in the bank, like a completely irresponsible decision. But what it meant was that people actually came to the booth, and we got the whole team kind of doing demos for real potential customers. It was a great feedback loop, and Clerk has done so well with the React audience that being at a Reactathon helped a lot. It was a totally different experience than like having the one, $1,000 to $5,000 booth where it's just, you can't get the foot traffic. Yeah, so it was essential in the product. Backstory this a little bit, like Clerk had a 2-year journey from like beginning of 21 to beginning of 23, where we were in the market, but it wasn't really growing. We had some customers that loved us, but we were really struggling to like get it to tilt up. And the biggest change we made, besides just like hammering feature parity, right? So I look at it like Auth0 had this 15-year head start on us. They just had more features, and we needed to just knock them out one by one and get the things launched. The other positioning change we did was, if you look at our launch in 2021, it was very like, Clerk is agnostic off. There was a little bit of React focus in the landing page, but there wasn't like a framework focus. And over time we realized like, okay, React developers like this a lot more than like a Rails, Python backend developer. And yes, the technology is agnostic, but that doesn't matter. What matters is like resonating. And so we reframed the website to be more React centric. And then the next layer after that was like, okay, React developers, it doesn't make sense to like give them a React SDK and then they kind of have to make it work in their framework, whether it's Next.js or Remix or whatever. We should just make a Next.js specific SDK and cut out more of the steps. And so that transition from like agnostic to framework specialized was probably the biggest like product marketing change we made in the time before it ticked up. So is design essential? I think surprisingly, it was not essential to find the first inflection, right? Like those early users that love you, and they're just like, wow, this is so much easier. It's so much better. Like it needs to be a competent design. The UX needs to be great. The UI, you can have a little less finesse on it, I think. I will say, like, to expand the pie, we absolutely invested very heavily in design. And I think that's been a big differentiator for Clerk, largely because of so much of Clerk's competition is open source. And when you think about, well, what are the reasons I'm going to outsource? There's a lot around like outsourcing security liabilities that people like to talk about, but we think of it more as just like, well, Clerk's going to give you a more complete solution out of the box than you're going to get with open source. And part of that is like, well, there's got to be a really, really, really great design out of the box from day one. All right, so Clerk's essentials in fundraising. At the end of the day, it's demo. We opened every fundraising meeting that would let us with a demo. And certainly the pattern is that the people who like the demo are the ones that invested. The other essential is strength in numbers, because we really, really needed to pitch like 40 people before we found one. And that was a bizarre experience of rejection, right? Because you have people that love the product. And when you're demoing the product to customers that are coming in the door, you understand what points are going to resonate with them. And you figure out the patterns pretty quickly. And so for Clerk, it was like when we got to the sign-in page and there was a Google OAuth button and it just worked in development without any extra setup. Like that was the first point of like, oh wow, like that's just there already? Like I'm already set, like amazing. And then the second was after they get back to the application in a signed-in state, we have this user button, which is that button in the top right of every website. It's like got your little profile picture on it and you click it and there's a manage account button and a sign out button. Like that UI it's like canon, like everyone does it now. And so the fact that Clerk just gave it to you out of the box and it popped open a full user profile where you can set up 2FA and all this stuff, like that was a huge jaw drop moment. And in fundraising, we do this same demo we do for customers to investors, and like 40 investors look at it and just no reaction at all to the standard hit points that every customer reacts to. And it's this like maddening thing of like, why don't you get it? I have all these customers that get it. And just reminding myself, or maybe reminding the audience, because in the moment it really was maddening. If you have customers that love it, you'll probably eventually find an investor that loves it too. You just really gotta go through a lot to find that person. For Clerk, that person was, there were three of them. It was Aditya at South Park Commons, and he was looking at a very early demo. It was actually still a Rails thing, but it was fantastic live because he was like, I worked on accounts.php at Facebook and I absolutely hated it. And he was actually like early Facebook, 2007, like worked on accounts.php. And so he just loved the idea and he pulled up the like Bill O'Reilly, like, fuck it, we'll do it live video right after I showed him the demo, and it's like, we're gonna do it. Great, love it. And so that was one. Then two was S28, and it was a seed fund. I think they're still investing. Andrew Miklas, he's at YC now, and he's a co-founder of PagerDuty. So just like very technical people at this fund. And he just experienced the problem before, understood it. They had portfolio companies that were struggling with auth, so they just like got it. And that was two. And then three, I'd say, is Andreessen, where Martin Casado, I remember Martin really vividly, because at this point it was like actually the product that Clerk still has today, going through this demo, and he just hit every single hit point in the demo. He reacted, and then after the demo I said, like, yeah, like we believe the component is the new API, the React component is the new API. And he like latched onto that, tweeted it out, and that's how we knew that one was going to close. But the feeling of, okay, we've pitched 30 funds, no one understood this. Andreessen, we were thinking there's no shot. Like, we tried to condense everything into a 2-week window, and they didn't schedule in those 2 weeks. They scheduled in the third week on a Friday morning, and we're like, this is like no shot after 2 weeks of failure. But like he got it. And before you have numbers, you're really needing to find the partner who gets it, and that's who's going to cheer you on. And we got lucky to find three, which is what we needed before we got numbers. Go to market, when did it become essential? Really right away. I think we didn't have go-to-market hires for a long time. I was the marketing person in the early days. And so it was mostly engineers like playing catch up with Auth0. And then I was the one that was tasked with like figure out how to get people to adopt this thing. I actually really like marketing. If people don't know this, I went to MIT. I started in computer science and then I switched to, they call it management science, which is really like business school, but it needs to be science because it's MIT. And then I was in the marketing like subpath, and I loved it. I think it's a really fun topic. The whole idea, the reason why I made that switch is like I knew I wanted to start a startup, and I knew I could build it, but I didn't know how to like get it to market. And so I like kind of crafted my own thing. And it's always been a fun topic for me, and just being process driven about it. So it was me. And eventually, I think after we found Twitter and it actually started to resonate in Twitter, it was like, okay, now we need to hire and start fueling it more and take the things that we found kind of off the cuff that work and really turn it into a process. At that point, I think we were working with hypergrowth already, and Ganto helped me hire Nick ultimately. And that team's just been off to the races. Do we have a truck? Is a truck an essential yet? So we do have the Clerk van. It is a cargo van that we have wrapped. There's a lot of funny stories about this van, but basically we park it in front of Y Combinator every day as a way to get the best startups using Clerk. And they have such a high volume there that we want every YC company to use Clerk. And it's really hard to like break into the YC ecosystem when they're rightfully just kind of cranking every day. So the question is like, well, how do we kind of passively make ourselves known? And there's a parking spot, a metered parking spot directly in front of Y Combinator's door that we just park in every day. And it's worked pretty well for us.